what it looks like is a very sick society.
Mm.
And that means we're not going to be able to run good businesses. We're not going to find good workers. We're going to spend lots of time in hospitals and feeling sick, and we're going to spend money on medical needs. It's terrifying. And the
Mm.
problem with poor food choices is that they don't show their damage until much later. It's a
Yeah.
very slow decline, right? Just like classic with type 2 diabetes. You don't get type 2 diabetes overnight. You get type 2 diabetes as a result of years and years and years and years of misfeeding your body,
Yeah.
mistreating and misfeeding. Same thing. And that is in the TED talk that I gave a TED talk called Sugar is Not a Treat.
Mm-hmm.
I I talk about how we give kids all the sugar and they start having focusing problems and depression and anxiety, and then that can escalate into um, every aspect of your life. If you can't focus and if you have depression and if you have anxiety, then you're going to not be a good student, and then you're not going to be a good worker, and then you're not going to be a good parent, and then you're not going to be a good friend. And the level of poor dietary choices that the world is making is affecting every single aspect of society, relationships, businesses, education, because everybody is running the world, and everybody's eating a horrible diet. I mean,
Right.
I think one of the ways we could improve the world on every level is if every human being had a healthy breakfast. And that means no biscuits, no sweet, mochas and pastries and cereals, and like something wholesome, a whole grain oatmeal, bananas and peanut butter, apple and nuts, and scrambled eggs, or a protein, even a vegetable stir fry with spinach and
Mm.
eggs, something like that. I know I'm trying to. I don't know exactly what people in India eat for breakfast, so I'm trying to
The interesting
make
thing
it.
with that, right, is you mentioned, of course, just to add in there, like, because I look at our Indian breakfast, right, and it's delicious, but a lot of it is rice based, right? But if you look at the actual, people might be like, oh, that's carbs. But the interesting thing is a lot of the stuff that like we have this thing called dosa, which is like a pancake, but it's made out of fermented rice, which is then ground. And a lot of the stuff like idlis, that's another kind of like a donut, not deep fried, but it's steamed. So a lot of the old stuff that we would eat is actually, it's not just processed rice, but it's fermented. A lot of the stuff is fermented. So that's apparently really good for people in the morning. If you look at even,
Better, much
I think
better.
much better. Yeah. So, but then again, if you look at what is fast selling in the restaurants, the breakfast restaurants, it's all the deep fried stuff because it tastes so good in the morning. And
Yeah.
what you said, yeah, there are of course, a lot of people who eat sausages, bacon, and eggs, but a lot of Indian breakfast is definitely more carby than protein or fat. I think fat, of course, we use a lot
And
of clarified butter, which I think is good. But yeah,
and
it
a
could.
high carb breakfast can spike the blood sugar and then put you on a roller coaster the whole day.
Yeah.
You get this rush of energy because you eat high carb, and then a couple hours later you might feel hungry or tired or frustrated or angry, right? Because your blood sugar is dropping, and then you grab some more sugar, and you can be on that kind of,
Yeah.
high low roller coaster all day long. And I actually feel bad for all of you that don't have a medical diagnosis to force you to eat better, because
Yeah.
most people don't make major changes unless they're so fed up with being fat, or they're so fed up with having headaches, or they're so fed up because they get diagnosed with, something. Or hopefully those of you that are listening are aware, though, of how much damage the the processed foods, the sugar foods, and the deep fried foods are. It's going to catch up with you. In America, by 2050, it is predicted that a third of our population is going to have type 2 diabetes. And type 2 diabetics have anxiety, have depression. They might get their foot cut off. Their kidneys might fail. They might have a heart attack, stroke. They might go blind because high blood sugar, when there's too much sugar in the bloodstream, it's kind of like glass, little bits of glass circulating through the bloodstream, ripping apart the inside of your arteries, ruining your circulation all throughout your body. The number one reason why people with high blood sugar die is from a cardiovascular um, event.
Right.
And yet that is not something that happens like a car accident. That happens over years. And uh, I really hope that people, even if you can't make a big change, even a small change, right? Uh, it's, I don't know how to say it more clearly. Our diet is killing the world. It's
Yeah.
truly killing the world because of, like I said, the domino effect of the lack of energy that a sugary diet gives you in the long run and the effect on your brain and your productivity and your creativity. And it, if it doesn't affect you now, it eventually will. We see that with
Right.
type 2 diabetics. It
And you,
eventually will catch
yeah.
up to you. If it hasn't, if your poor diet hasn't caught up to you yet, it will.
And I find that quite amazing that we kind of look at all the poisons out there, right? We say, oh, drugs and narcotics and alcohol. And of course, they all are bad, but, smoking's bad. But we do it as an informed choice. But we've never told food or look at food as an informed choice. But, well, it is an informed choice. Because if you tell me now, would you, and this is something I've been looking at closely over the past 18 months to 2 years, is I've been eating just 2 meals a day, if I do, sometimes one meal a day, right? And when I wake up sometimes at home, oh, the smell of breakfast is delicious. I mean, we all have to accept that, right? Like,
Yeah.
a donut with, a bagel with cream cheese when it's toasting. Oh, it smells delightful. But when I do
Yeah.
eat that, it feels good. And I do eat it once. I eat breakfast maybe once or twice a week, maybe more some weeks. I'm quite flexible that way. But when I did go for about, almost a year without breakfast, and I started eating breakfast now, I realized what it was doing to me, right? Because I would feel, as you said, you would have like withdrawals after the sugar crash, or you would have that craving. And we all feel that craving is the body, screaming for food, because you hear people, right? Man, I haven't eaten in 3 hours. I'm starving. No, you're not. You're not starving.
No.
We're close to starving. But there's this thing now, as I was just to paint another picture about India, is like, there's so much. I mean, in some way, it seems like an abundance, right? Especially for the middle class and lower middle class and above, with restaurants, with these food apps, and just click of a button and these things saying there's in 15 minutes you can just get one pizza for like less than 50 cents, and people are like, wow. How do you?
They're all just trying to hook you to get
And
your
then people are
money.
hooked, right? People are hooked, and people, I mean, you look at in IT companies, when these are people who are educated, people who have good jobs, quote unquote good jobs, and it's just 3 meals a day, it's 4 meals a day, and it's not giving the body a break. And just to give you my perspective on this, because I did a year of 18 to 21 hours fasting, right? I mean, intermittent fasting. And the way I felt, of course, my muscle mass dropped a bit, and I had to get back on protein to kind of improve that. But otherwise, like, I never, we've always told to measure our fasting, our sugar levels, right? That we have CGMs. But I never knew of this thing of fasting insulin, like reduce your overall insulin level. If that comes down, your body's able to fight better. And after a year of doing intermittent fasting for 18 to 21 hours, something which I had, which I could never reduce in my blood, which was my triglycerides, right? I'm sure you've heard of the triglyceride levels, which are bad for cardiovascular, or a determinant of cardiovascular health. Mine was
Yeah.
350 because of genetic reasons. Like, my family has a history of that. After
Wow.
1 year of doing this intermittent fasting, my triglycerides dropped from 350 to 67, which was crazy, without medication. And I was like, if your body can fight back, and the biggest thing which I did was deprive it of overfeeding, I found that remarkable. So I wanted to understand, because you also, as a naturopath, are more preventive and holistic, as opposed to put someone on a pill and say, hey, see you in 40 years. So
Right.
how do you approach this? Like, what do you look at a person who's just not thinking about what they're putting into their face? Sorry, that's I sometimes think like a feeding frenzy, right? Just like they just shovel food without even thinking what it's doing. How do you approach a
Right.
person who's not even on the brink of, say, obese, or has hypertension, or but someone who's just like, in their 30s, and they're like, have no symptoms yet, but could, but according
Right.
to you, is heading down that slippery slope.
I'll have to find out what's important to them.
Hmm.
I have to ask a lot of questions and also dig deeper into uh, any symptoms that they're, do you get headaches? Do you forget things? Can you stay focused? Do you sleep well? Do you have all the energy you want? Do you feel strong when you exercise? Uh, and then I'll say, well, tell me about your parents and tell me about your goals. Can you
Hmm.
visualize what you want to be doing when you're 50 and 60? Tell me about people that you know that are 50 and 60. How is their health? You have to really dig deep into what's truly affecting their life today and maybe things that they're not aware of. Like I said, all those like energy and sleep and thinking patterns, focus, and then try to find out if I can't find anything that's important to them that they want in the future, and I can't find any symptomology that they're perhaps not aware of that I've uncovered, then they're not going to change.
Right.
So I really have to identify a dream, a desire, a goal that they have in the future. And then I have to connect it to if you want to reach that, the diet that you're presently on is probably not going to get you there. Right. It does. It takes a lot of, and if someone's not motivated, they can't see any negative impact and any positive future, they won't change. So,
Yeah.
um, but that's really the way. It's hard to change the diet, right? It's really hard. So just me saying, "Hey, sugar's bad," is not going to change anybody. I know that.
I know, and that's the strange part, right? Like by doing this, intentionally staying away from food, I started appreciating like how certain flavors are completely masked when you're just overeating, because you're like, oh, this cheese doesn't taste good. But sometimes, I would notice after a 21-hour fast or whatever, even like a little, like I would have salad or something, and without any kind of dressing, and I would feel like the vegetable itself had a little sweetness to it, or a certain taste
Yes.
to it,
Yes.
And I want to understand that,
Yes.
because we say fruits are great. Fruits, they eat like 10 fruits, and I don't know. I sometimes find it just crazy how people are like fruits, and when someone says eat like these superfoods, they're like, I'm eating 4 kilos of broccoli. I think we just had a little mad as a species. So sorry, that was my observation, not asking your question on that.
Yeah.
But can first of all, can we live an entirely healthy life without any sugar in our diet?
Well, so let's define sugar. Added sugar is really what I'm talking about. Added
Right,
sugar, the sugar that food manufacturers add to products to increase flavor and extend shelf life.
right.
Right? In the American diet, the top sources are of sugar, added sugar, are soft drinks, fruit drinks, flavored yogurts, cereals, cookies, cakes, candy. So we're also talking spaghetti sauce, ketchup. Uh, it's also can be even literally in soups, cured meats, and bread.
Oh,
Sugar
okay.
is not a required nutrient in your diet. There's no such thing, actually, even as essential carbohydrates. If you study nutrition, there's essential amino acids and essential fatty acids. And that means certain proteins, amino acids you must get from food, and certain fats you must get from food. But there's no such thing actually as essential carbohydrates. So added sugar is not ever needed in the diet. So now,
Right.
uh, so here from the American Heart Association, it actually, given the heart risks of a high sugar diet, because actually too much added sugar is one of the greatest threats to cardiovascular disease. There's a study, 15-year study, that people who got 17 to 21% of their calories from added sugar had almost a 40% higher risk of dying from cardiovascular disease versus those who consumed 8% or less of their calories from added sugar. So added sugar is not only not necessary, but it's a huge health risk. And I actually have a whole list of other health risks I'll get to in a moment. However, so let me go back. The American Heart Association suggests that women consume no more than 100 calories a day, which is only 6 teaspoons or 24 grams of sugar, and men no more than 150 calories. And that is literally the amount in one soda. In
That's
one soda.
crazy.
So in America, most Americans at least triple that. And
On a
so
daily basis?
on a daily basis,
So
absolutely.
that's
So,
crazy. So it's like three Cokes a day or a
oh,
pack.
yes,
Yeah. That's okay.
yes, yes. So let's go into the health consequences. Consuming too much added sugar raises blood pressure, increases chronic inflammation. Obviously, both lead to heart disease.
Right.
Of course, it contributes to weight gain. Of course, we know that. And here is this list. So, heart disease, weight gain, acne, type 2 diabetes, even some cancer. Sugar increases inflammation, right? Inflammation increases cancer, especially esophageal, small intestine, endometrial.
Right.
Obviously, a higher risk of depression because of blood sugar swings, creating neurotransmitter dysregulation. It can turn you into an addict. Of course, sugar releases these chemicals, opioids and dopamine, that
Hmm.
activate the brain's pleasure center. So it doesn't take very long to acquire this tolerance, meaning you need more and more sugar to get the same hit.
Hmm.
And that, of course, then is going to increase your risk of depression and cancer and type 2 diabetes.